Hi, I'm Chuck Ammon with Tech Talk, and today I'm talking with Renee Hesselink with the Muskegon Area Sustainability Coalition. And there's a conference going on at the Merrick today.
There is, on recycling as an economic driver.
Okay, now how did this come up? How did the whole conference come together?
Well, we've had a recycling subcommittee in our Muskegon Area Sustainability Coalition for a number of years, and they've been promoting recycling mostly in schools in the area. So in April, Governor Snyder rolled out his initiative to increase residential recycling in across the state. So we decided we wanted to get a jump start on that, and so we organized this conference and invited all those involved in making that happen to come today.
So what kind of groups are involved that you have invited?
Well, our municipalities, our townships, our cities, the waste haulers, to a certain extent, government officials. You know, they can definitely have influence over what happens in their counties and communities.
So where, as a benchmark, where does Muskegon stand right now, do you figure?
We don't really know, because that's one of the issues. We don't have to report statistics. And that is one of his initiatives, is to get all at the county level to report where they're at. And overall, over the state of Michigan, we're estimating that we're at about 15%.
Which is quite low.
Yes. All of our neighboring states are around 30%. So
as a whole.
His initiative is to get us to 30% by 2016.
Wow. Are there any counties or cities in Michigan that you know of that are already on the move with this?
Definitely. Emmett County up in the Petoskey area, they definitely, and we'll hear from them today, their story, but they definitely have been doing it for quite a while. So I don't know what their numbers are, but I'm sure that they're well above the 30%. And then Kent County's doing a pretty good job too. They, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, they built a single stream facility. So that increased, not having to separate everything. So that increased. And we'll hear from them today too.
That's good. And I'm going to be talking to him after the conference as well, just to get his thoughts on that and find out how single stream feeds into that and how some of the government support feeds into that as well. So,
good.
Yeah, it sounds exciting though.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about it. And we do have a solid waste committee at the county level. All counties do in Michigan. So I know that our Muskegon Solid Waste Committee has been meeting and talking about future goals anyway before this all happened. So I know several of them will be here today too.
Great. Well, it sounds like a great thing. We'll be looking at the conference, listening to it, and then following up with a couple of them afterwards. So it sounds like a great event. Thanks for putting it together.
Yeah, thanks for being here to televise it so many can see it. So
Sure. Okay, thanks.
Welcome to everyone. We're excited to host this today. This is being hosted by the Muskegon Area Sustainability Coalition, and we've been in existence for about 7 years now. We've had a recycling subcommittee for probably at least 6 or 6.5 years of those 7 years, and they have been focusing a lot on mostly helping school districts start up recycling programs or increase their recycling. So we are excited to host this, and our goal is that we are ahead of maybe many in the state of Michigan who are jumping on board to get a head start on the governor's initiative that he rolled out in April to increase residential recycling in the state of Michigan. And the goal is to double it by 2016. So we're focusing on that, but we also have invited one of our local businesses to the table so that they can talk about from a business perspective. So I'm Renee Hesselink, and I'm on the leadership team of the Sustainability Coalition. And I think everyone on the panel from some capacity, I even went to high school with Steve and did not know that until just, So I'm going to give them each a chance to introduce themselves briefly, and then we'll start to dig into some of the questions that I've asked them to answer. So I'll introduce everyone. We've got Karen O'Brien here, who is the Executive Director of the Michigan Recycling Coalition. We've got Matt Fletcher from the Michigan DEQ. He's the Recycling and Composting Specialist on staff. We've got Doug Wood from the Director of Public Works for Kent County. We have Alyssa Seltzer, who's with the director of Emmett County Public Works, which is the Petoskey area. We've got Steve Anakire from Fleet Engineers. We've got Brenda Kling from Republic Services, who is one of our major waste haulers in the area. And then Matt Bailosh from Chef Container, who is also servicing this area as a hauler. So I'm going to give it to Karen and let her briefly introduce herself.
Hi, so I am the Executive Director of a statewide association and recycling advocate. We have been around for about 32, 33 years. We work at a statewide level to represent my recycling professional colleagues. We provide an annual conference every year, a 3-day event that travels around the state. We bring in keynote speakers that help to elevate our ideas of recycling, and then we also provide sessions to help people do more recycling, enhanced recycling in their own regions. Back in 2011, we developed a report I'll be talking more about that helped to bring recycling to, I think, the level of discussion it is in right now at the state, where we sought to identify the economic and environmental benefits of recycling to the entire state of Michigan. And it's gotten some attention, and I believe that's part of why we're here today. Mm-hmm. Matt.
Hi, I'm Matt Flechter with the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. First, let me thank you for putting together such a great session, and I think that there should be more of these around the state, and there will be opportunity for more of these. Recycling is finally getting the notoriety that it deserves. The nexus between the environment and the economy is now being realized, and it's all of you and the people on the panel that are making that happen. You are the voice to bring these issues forward so that we can get the policies in place to help your businesses and your communities succeed. For 14 years, I've worked at the Department of Environmental Quality as a state recycling specialist, and we're finally starting to get some traction in the legislature, in the governor's office, through the administration on these issues. We've got a panel or a Governor's Recycling Council together to provide some great information and guidance to the Department of Environmental Quality and ultimately the governor to move recycling forward in Michigan. So it's an exciting time. I'm glad to be here.
My name is Doug Wood. I'm the director of the Kent County Department of Public Works. And I'm also a resident of the city of Norton Shores. So for 23 years I've been going that way, and probably other people are going this way. But I was also on the city council, but I didn't like being a politician, so I got off of that quick. But in terms of solid waste management and recycling, our department, obviously Kent County is a little bigger with a city, Grand Rapids, and other 5 major cities, and we have townships that are larger than some of our cities. We have a community that historically has been involved in recycling, and some of the early pioneers, maybe you would recognize some of their names, but our former Congressman Vern Ehlers was a leader. He was a professor in physics at that time. He was a leader in advancing recycling in our county. So when I talk about recycling, I'll be talking about commitment from your community and also your elected officials.
Okay, my name is Elisa Seltzer. I'm the Public Works Director for Emmett County, and I've got some pictures today, so I'll be throwing them in. So I'll be talking about Emmett County, what we do, how we got to where we are now, and the economic benefits we've derived from that work. I've been with the county for 25 years now. So Emmett County, by the numbers, we're small, about 30,000 people, very rural. Some similarities to Muskegon County that we're on the water. We've got rural, resort, tourist community, very strong seasonal component, and wide economic disparities. We like to be known for our small town charm and big city amenities, and that's something I was really proud when they used our curbside recycling as an example of how we provide for our guests and residents. Because we're so small and we got into recycling over 20 years ago, we developed a hub and spoke model where we provide regional processing capabilities for recyclables for our neighboring counties. We really believe, and the state plan is now encouraging regional collaboration, and that we can create synergies by working together. So we work with our neighboring counties, with the private sector, with organizations and municipalities to make our program work. We have a solid waste transfer station, a recycling processing center. We have over 16 recycle drop sites countywide, and we service another 5 outside of our county. And we believe drop sites are a real cost-effective option for rural areas. We also have curbside recycling collection that reaches over 60% of our single-family households and is the ultimate inconvenience for your residences and businesses. We also provide commercial recycling curbside pickup, and our businesses absolutely rave about how it's a no-brainer. And that's one of the things we want to talk about today in terms of economic benefits of recycling, is that these businesses are saving money, and they're doing the right thing, and they feel good about it, and they look good because of it. So we also do extensive event recycling, really comprehensive, and public space recycling. And my time's up, so pick up where I left off. Thank you.
I like that you have pictures. I'm feeling like I should have pictures. My name's Alyssa Hillary. I work for an organization called Local First. And Local First is a nonprofit network of locally owned businesses that talk to the community about the importance of supporting local business and how that creates a strong, sustainable local economy. And we do all kinds of different things to help businesses be more sustainable and share best practices. But about 5 years ago, we partnered with the City of Grand Rapids to create a recycling program in partnership with those businesses. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit more about that.
Steve.
I'm Steve Anakire. I'm Vice President of Manufacturing at Flea Engineers, the only manufacturer on the panel today. But Flea Engineers is a small family-run business. We've got 120 employees. We manufacture products for the semi-truck industry. We've got a little over 750 different products that we manufacture at our facility out on Keating Avenue. And we've got products that basically comprise of metal. We've got metal stamping operations. We've got a wood shop. We produce wood doors. We also have a plastics injection molding plant. We have roll forming, tube bending metal, and that type of product. And we deal with a lot of different products. Basically steel, stainless steel, aluminum, wood, composites, and plastic materials. We generate quite a bit of scrap. And I'm going to share our story today from at least an economic point of view as a small manufacturer and what we're generating in scrap today and how we're actually making money today on this program. And we're still young in our stages. We've only been recycling for 17 months. So I've had some pretty good successes with that. And I'm going to talk about some of the things that we're doing and how we got there.
Thank you. Brenda.
I'm Brenda Kling. I'm with Republic Services. I've been involved in the recycling efforts for far too long. I think there's a few of us up here that have been involved over 25 years, and I guess I have to admit I'm one of them. Started out my recycling efforts with Ottawa County as a resource recovery coordinator. I feel like it was a lifetime ago. And now work for Republic Services, mainly in the industrial and commercial sector, but also helping and assisting with our recycling efforts for the residential as well.
Matt.
My name is Matt Violet, and I work for a company called Chef Container and another company called West Shore Recycling. West Shore Recycling is an advanced mixed materials recovery facility that's located in Lake Town Township, just outside of Holland City. And Chef Container is a semi-traditional hauling company as it relates to the waste industry. I spend a lot of my time working with municipalities on education with single hauler and pay-as-you throw programs. And I also do a large part of consultant work as it relates to industrial customers as well.
Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to turn it back over to Karen, and I've asked Karen to kind of lay the groundwork on what recycling looks like in Michigan today, and then what the economic benefits. She mentioned they've been doing a report, and so she's up on all of this, so I've asked her to kind of lay the ground.
I'll do my best. Unfortunately, I think the economic benefits of market development and recycling, of the markets of recycling, have really not been greatly explored at the state level, and I'm really eager to have this conversation to see where it takes us. Michigan doesn't know how much it's recycling. It's been estimated that we are recycling at about 14.5% of our municipal solid waste stream. That's estimated by a company or a magazine outside of the state, that's published outside of the state, that tries to do that across the country, and this is what they estimate. We're pretty confident that that's a good estimate, but we've never, not since about 2000, we've never really tried to get an accurate picture with data and information about what's happening in recycling in Michigan. And unfortunately, that's really held us back from making significant improvements to the recycling infrastructure. Intuitively, we all know on the panel here that communities are making choices to recycle more and to add recycling to contracts. We do know that there have been many private investments in the state in facilities. Chef Container in Kent County's even made some improvements to their facility. But can that development actually be spurred to be much more? We've got cash-strapped communities, especially rural and sub-rural communities that aren't well served. We've got a lot of people that don't have convenient access to recycling, and in fact, that's one of the key issues for the state. That's where they think that they can make, start making the most impact, is really giving Michigan residents the best opportunity to recycle that they can. There's a challenge to providing services in those rural settings, and we haven't had the resources to be able to really address it across the board like we need to. Many communities that are leaders in Michigan are leaders because they got a jump start through the Solid Waste Alternative Program grants that were given out, about 25 years ago. And there really has never been an assessment of that program and what that program has done for recycling in Michigan. So I certainly hope that that's something that this Governor's Recycling Council that you hear more about does, is look at these, at what, $200 million or more that was spent to establish recycling centers in communities, to build markets in Michigan for these communities. So let's really explore what happened there and see how we can advance that, into this next stage. So those were current leaders, and the communities that weren't poised at that time to do something have really been kind of left behind and have been inching their way up. And now we see this kind of renaissance of recycling, and we predict something big to happen. One of the key things that needs to happen for us to move forward is this data development. The DEQ just put out a couple of grant RFPs to collect the data, to identify model communities and put some standards on those. What does it mean? What kind of benchmarks do we need to reach for communities to really be able to say that they're providing adequate services to their residents and can be a beacon for new businesses? So I hope that what comes out of that effort is that through this data collection, we can identify gaps in infrastructure and service development or service provision around the state, and we can help private businesses and communities identify exactly where those gaps exist, and then drive private and public investment to fill those gaps. That's one of my great hopes here. One of the things that I see as far as this discussion about recycling market development is that we've looked at it, especially in the past, as building demand for recycled commodities, working with markets, maybe even with Steve's company, so that he uses more, recycled plastics in the manufacturing of his parts and pieces. But what I'm seeing now is a trend that we actually, that manufacturers actually need to be assured that there is going to be a significant supply of recycled commodities in order to be able to incorporate those into the manufacture of their products. If it's going to be inconsistent supply, they can't commit to that. And so we're seeing this shift, I think, between market demand to market supply. What I think our challenge is going to be moving forward is that we want to pull more materials out of households and out of businesses to make that available to haulers and processors and end users, manufacturers. But the burden, the cost burden is going to remain on communities. So I feel like I got a lot to pull in here all at once. But if we can, the governor identified $1 million appropriation to help to kick off this, recycling initiative. And what we need to do is to use this opportunity to justify, to help to identify what needs to happen and to justify a continued investment in recycling in the future to help communities like Muskegon to be able to harness the resources they need to actually get the infrastructure and the service provision to be able to provide comprehensive services to their residents. And how you'll benefit from that is that you will save money in material going to the landfill. That's a no-brainer. There will be more hauling jobs. There will be more material collected and hauled to processors, to the local material recovery facility, which will be employing people to sort material, to manage staff. So it's jobs on that level. Once the market sees that you're producing a quality commodity with some quantity, then you will attract businesses to Muskegon County to use those materials. And even if you don't attract them to Muskegon County, we're able to attract them to Michigan. Or even if we're not able to attract them to Michigan, and they are in North Carolina, businesses in Michigan, Ford, GM, and Chrysler, for instance, depend on that flow of material to be able to make their car parts from recycled commodities. So no matter how far afield that the economic development goes, we still benefit from that. And so what I'm saying, I guess right here today, is that immediate economic development is getting that material out of households and businesses most efficiently with the highest quality and quantity that we can, and processing it within the community for markets that are not far from the community. I guess I'll end my comments there.
Okay, then I've asked Matt to follow up with anything he'd like to add to that, and then actually roll out the governor's initiative or the state's initiative.
Sure.
So
I can do that. Karen's right. Recycling truly is an economic development tool. These are commodities we're talking about: paper, metal, glass, plastic, materials that manufacturers need to make new products. And right now, our system is set up to send those commodities on a one-way trip to disposal. What the governor's initiative seeks to do is change that system so that those commodities are no longer going on a one-way trip to disposal, but are used as the economic engine that they are in new products in Michigan. So what have we done so far? We've talked a lot, and we have to put it into action now. The legislature just recently approved the $1 million general fund appropriation to get the ball moving. We are going to focus on measurement. We've already talked about that. Talk a little bit about later. Outreach, education, and technical assistance to communities and businesses. Developing markets. Looking at increasing access to recycling systems so that materials have an option. Right now, there are way too many communities and businesses that don't have the option. There's nowhere for it to go other than in the trash can. So having curbside bins in place, having drop-off locations in place, so those commodities can make their way into the system and be turned into new products. That's the ultimate goal, right? So, and then specifically to communities and counties, look at the county solid waste management planning process right now. Make sure that it's a system in place to drive development in recycling infrastructure and markets. So we want to review that, maybe turn it on its head, make it something new, something better for your communities. So what can you specifically do as communities and businesses? First of all, stay engaged. Watch the process, make your voice heard. Make sure that as the Governor's Recycling Council is making recommendations, that you get with Doug and Karen and Elisa and provide your input about what you need. What are some of the barriers to developing those recycling systems. And then when policy comes up, when we start looking at new policies, making sure your voice is heard through your legislature, your local government, ask for these systems. Call your waste haulers and say, we need these systems in place. We're willing to do the heavy lifting to put them in place and make your voice heard. Because if you're here, you're obviously interested in recycling. So we need you to make your voice heard.
All right, now I've asked Matt. I recently heard Matt give a short presentation on the waste hauling industry in general, and he did such a good job. I just wanted him to explain how the waste industry operates in a brief way.
Of course, not a problem. So for those of you who are not familiar with the way the waste industry works, you have a couple componentries that a lot of people don't think about. When most companies think about waste and recycling, they think about a service, Waste Management, Republic Services, Chef Container, ABC Disposal, whoever it is in their area that comes to their location, picks up their waste stream material and makes it go away, whether it's waste or recycling. And what most people don't see behind that curtain is there's a lot of other players in that marketplace that make that process work. And there's a lot of equipment that's involved in it as well. So as a manufacturer, for example, someone might say, well, you know, I think we're going to put a compactor in place. That sounds like a great idea. But someone in facilities has to then approve a $30,000 purchase, or a $50,000 purchase, or a $100,000 purchase, depending on the type of equipment. Even if it's as simple as, you know, normal trash boxes, the metal boxes that you see in your locations, front and rear load containers, they're called in the industry. Those items, you know, are typically about $1,000 a piece for the larger scale units. And so there's a lot of capital investment that the hauling industry has in order to support you and municipalities as industrial and municipal customers. And one of the calculations that doesn't come into the economic discussion a lot is as we increase recycling and as we decrease waste materials, there is a capital investment that will happen in Michigan from haulers that will produce not only more equipment. We have Cascade Engineering in Grand Rapids, which right now is, you know, one of the top tier cart manufacturers in this area and definitely throughout the Midwest and even nationally, according to some people. But they produce an excellent product, and they've gone to the degree of embedding RFD tags into it so you can track that. I've seen some RFD tag stuff done on commercial equipment for the use of tracking through commercial tips as well, where it actually ties into the scale packages of trucks. So there's a lot of different ways to go through it, but it relates to municipal and commercial industrial establishments. What a lot of people talk about when they talk about solid waste programs is price. They're very cost conscious on what they're looking for versus looking for the right alternative for what their business needs to produce. And a lot of times it's not always tied into a waste hauler. Sometimes it involves companies like Padnos and Grand Rapids Iron and Metal and outside brokers. There's even companies that, I mean, we've got Jim Cherney here from Goodwill. There's companies that call on Goodwill to process materials that is a recyclable commodity for their industrial scrap. I think of DTE up in Detroit, and what they do with the Goodwill people in Detroit there is something that most people wouldn't think of as a traditional recycling event, but what they're doing is actually doing a great service on a lot of different levels with the Goodwill organization. So beyond selecting vendors, as it talks to the core economics of it, what a lot of people don't understand is the cost factor that relates to the MRF concept behind a vendor. So a vendor will come up and pick up from you and bring to the landfill or bring to a materials recovery facility materials. And one of the downsides of Michigan as it relates to economic growth on recycling is we have one of the lowest landfill rates in the country. So it makes it very, very cheap to throw stuff away. Well, if you've got a $30 a ton disposal cost on average throughout the state of Michigan, and you've got a $60 a ton baling cost to process recycling, which way is cheaper to get rid of material? 30 or 60? Well, the 30 is. Well, if the value of the markets are consistent, you can offset that $60 baling cost. But if you look at the commodity markets as it relates today versus the green fence that happened a year ago, paper's at $55 a ton, cardboard's at $70 a ton. It's not until you get into the plastics do you start seeing some revenue dollars. and paper in general is actually on a downstream. So it's the other markets that we have to really focus on. The days of, oh, we're going to do a recycling program, we're going to have all this newspaper from the community, those days are gone. That medium of delivery is going away. The paperless office is, something everyone's striving for in corporate America, even though I've failed miserably to accomplish it. If anyone has any ideas, let me know at the end, because I can't figure it out. But divertible waste is what it really comes down to. And so you have to look at that cost comparison of how do I divert my material? How do I make sure that my material blend has enough value in it that it can go off to somebody? And if it has a lot of value, or if it has a lot of quantity, how do I package it internally that I might broker it myself to someone like a Padnos or to another paper mill somewhere out in the country? Fabrics and textiles are one of those things that a lot of people don't think about long term, but textiles make up about 14% of our municipal waste stream throughout the United States. And textiles, if we can take textiles and food waste and recycling out of our waste stream, we're left with about 6 to 7% of the waste stream. If we just took those items out, food waste, textiles, and single stream recycling, not even going after the hard stuff, just taking the easy stuff. So when you're developing a program, I know a lot of you sit on an industrial level front that's in this room, green teams are very important in making sure your organization is committed to, really buckling into that. So you want to make sure that there's a large conversation and there's a large commitment from within your organization, and it's really supported top down. Because as a facilities manager, or even as a vice president of operations, if you're trying to put a large scale recycling and reuse program in place and you don't have the top up support of it, you're going to fail. And without the top up support and without the bottom up support, you got to get all of those people involved. Otherwise, it's just this long, hard battle to deal with things. And then the other common misconception on, the economics factor is there are a lot of items in the recycling industry that do make money, but there's also a lot of items in the recycling industry that have a very low commodity value. And one of the things that a lot of people like to do as it relates to industrial recycling specifically is try to take all of the high dollar value stuff out, say corrugated, and leave all the low dollar stuff back, and then expect for it to happen for free. Well, the processors of the world can't process that other material without some of the value from the corrugated to offset some of those lower dollar commodities. Otherwise, you get to that 30-60 range again. Well, if I have to bale paper only for a manufacturer, and paper is valued at $55 a ton in today's market, well, I need, at a minimum, to get $5 a ton more just to break even on a baling cost. And most manufacturers go, you want me to pay you $5 to get rid of paper? You make money off paper. Why would I pay you for that? It's crazy. But not only do you have the cost of the baling and the processing, but you also have that whole transportation mechanism as well. So you have to look at all of those aspects. And price is very important as it relates to recycling and economic development. But it also has to be brought into a general value scheme more in people's mindsets than just cost. And I guess that's kind of what you wanted to hear, right? Yeah, roundabout.
Good. Okay, now I've asked Brenda to really give us a perspective on what recycling might look like in the Muskegon area. She probably better than anyone sees that every day, and so I've asked her to give us from a hauler's perspective anyway.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, at Republic, my primary focus has been working with our industrial commercial customers. I've worked with many people over the years and increased recycling efforts throughout that sector as well. However, I have been involved with the residential recycling as well. One thing that I did want to mention that I don't think a lot of people really think about when we're talking about recycling, but one of the really great things we have going on here in Muskegon County in Western Michigan is a long time ago, Republic Services, back before it was even Republic Services, formed a strategic partnership with Resource Recovery Corporation. And to this day, they every year recycle tens of thousands of tons of foundry sand and keeping it into the recycling stream rather than into the waste stream. And that's been a huge, huge advantage for us. For our industry too, it's been a very cost-effective way for them. residential recycling in Muskegon County is really, really varied. I've been involved with a lot of different programs, watched a lot of different programs over the years. A lot of the same program set up the same way in one geographic area will work totally great. In another geographic area, it won't. There's so many different factors that are contributing to the success. One of the things that I don't know people really realize that in Muskegon County, over 95% of the homes have access to curbside recycling. Whether they use it or not, or even are aware of it or not, is, I think, one of the biggest obstacles we have. But 95% have access, and those that don't have access have, many of the rural townships will have the transfer stations that have recycling there. And then we also, as Republic Services, have our recycling processing center at 1970 Port City Boulevard that residents can take their material at no charge over to it. So there is recycling available. The other thing that has gone back and forth over the years is, how is recycling paid for? Is there an extra cost to the resident? What I've seen in all the many years is that there really isn't a correlation to the cost to the resident as far as the success of the program. You know, many people in here remember the days when we were doing City of Muskegon, well, we still are doing City of Muskegon recycling program. But a few years ago, when it was originally started, it had been started as it's included in the cost of the program that the municipality picks up. Residents didn't see any kind of charge other than it was on their water bill, but they didn't know whether it was an additional cost or not. And participation, I was thinking about this morning because at that time I was still with the county when that program first started. It started with a great bang. There was a lot of participation that I remember, but a key factor of it was there was a person that was doing the education and really out there promoting that program at that time. I don't know participation numbers from back then. I just remember thinking, oh, it seems to be going pretty good. That participation really, really waned. And as the city was facing budgetary concerns and other issues, it was decided that it would become a subscription program. They still have it available. It's a nominal fee that they pay, and I don't even remember how much, but a nominal fee, annual fee, for a twice a month recycling program. So it is, again, still available, and it was also promoted that they get the free option at our recycling facility. And then you've got other programs, municipal programs, that it's included in it, that the resident does not see any cost, and the participation is still, my experience is it's been really determined by a geographic location rather than the cost of the program. So I'm not sure, other than stressing education, how to promote it anymore. Another thing that has been discussed often is the ease of the program. And in our program for the curbside recycling, people are starting to talk a lot, and I believe Doug will probably talk about the single stream recycling. And it's a huge thing, but in all reality, while we still ask people to sort their material, the paper, from the rest of the material, if people put it out to the curb altogether, it's not left there. So that shouldn't be a roadblock either from increasing participation. Again, I go back to the fact that I think it's education on all of our parts that needs to happen. And Karen, you talked about the economic benefit. There is definitely an economic benefit even in our program that we have. We have 11 full and part-time employees at the recycling center, plus a number of drivers that are devoted just to recycling. And as that increases, then that will increase as well.
Good, thank you. Okay, our next session, we're going to share some specifics on success stories that are happening around the state. And I've asked Doug to first speak on their new single stream facility in Grand Rapids, and probably first let us know what single stream is. So go for it, Doug.
Yeah. The three concepts that I'd like to talk about this afternoon and kind of point everything else I talk about towards those. One is commitment. In my introduction, I mentioned commitment by individuals, but it has to be a political commitment and commitment by business leaders. And commitment by individuals, like I noticed Arn Bothard walked in, and Arn, are you retired now? Oh, okay. And I want to mention Arn later, but because I was in this room over here, and I think 2008 we talked about single stream and had a conversation about that. So it's a commitment from political leaders and businesses. I want to talk about public education and convenience for the customer, because anybody that's in business, you want to make sure it's convenient so that they participate. So Renee asked me what single stream is, and Brenda talked about dual stream. It used to be where you were given, if you were a resident, you were given a bin, and you would put newspaper in the bin and perhaps your other materials, metal, plastic, what have you, or you had two bins, and then you had to, if you waited too long and had to haul it out to the curb, it was too heavy, and so you had to figure out some way, put it in your kid's wagon or whatever to get it out there. And the reason I describe it that way is because that is not necessarily convenient. You are participating in recycling, but it's not convenient. It's not as convenient as today's method of getting rid of garbage, where you have a cart with wheels on it. Now, I did talk with this gentleman over here. He said he still uses the 50 gallon metal can, but most people, I think, in general, use a garbage or refuse cart with wheels. So that was dual stream. And then once it was collected, they put fiber or newsprint in the truck on one end, and then they put everything else on the other end. And when it came to the facility, they would open these doors in the divider, and they put the fiber over here, then everything else went over here. So your processing plant had two lines. One was a fiber line, so that's where all your newspaper, your mailing materials, your phone books, and all of that type of material. Then the other line was your plastics, your metals, and everything else. And most of this was hand sorted. On the fiber line, you kind of do a negative sort. Your largest product was your newsprint, so you would like pull the phone books out and everything else, and then let the newsprint go by, you bail it up. But in 2008 that I alluded to, we said, hey, we've got to do a study and see and look and focus on convenience. So we hired a company to look at what would, if the system was set up a different way, would they participate in recycling? And I think it came back like 85% that people would recycle if it were more convenient. And what's more convenient than having a recycle cart that has wheels on it, that you can get it out to the curb instead of hauling those bins? And so that was an indication to us right there that we need to redesign our system. And so we said we need a new facility, because the current facility we were in was 20 years old anyway, and there was a lot of newer technologies. So that's how we advanced single stream. Single stream is on the top of recycle carts in Kent County, and in most communities, it'll list everything that we want in that recycle cart. And then you put them in that recycle cart, and you wheel it up to the curb. They come by with a arm, grabs it, empties in the truck, and off they go. Not only do they get more pickups because of the way mechanization, but the homeowner doesn't have to mess around with it. They just put it in the container. That's the key convenience element. It goes to our facility, single stream. It gets dumped there. we run it up a line, and we start processing it with a number of machines, which I'll get into shortly. I think what's important here, though, is kind of describe for you our history and how we advance this system. Kent County has been involved in recycling probably back right after, we got started right after the US EPA was formed. It's probably, I think, late 60s, early 70s. And the leaders at that time, and I alluded to Vern Ehlers, but there were other colleges and universities and individuals and environmentalists and what have you that led the charge on it. And so there was a not-for-profit organization started in Kent County called Recycling Unlimited. And Recycling Unlimited started recycling, put out these small little bins about the size of Gaylord boxes. And they put them all over the community, and they would collect this material, and they would bring it back and hand process it. Recycling Unlimited got all of their processing equipment from companies like Steelcase. Steelcase say, hey, we got this warehouse, we got a building over here, we got all these conveyors, we don't need them, you want them. So that's where they got their equipment to operate. And then they would get donations. And then at that time, they requested funding from the Kent County, and Kent County did support them. And so they operated through the 70s and 80s, but for reasons that I don't know totally, the end of the 80s, they just said, we can't make it the way we're doing it. This model doesn't work. Well, the county said, geez, we can't let recycling fail. So Recycling Unlimited as a not-for-profit ended probably 1989, or the first part of 1990, and the next week the county took it over. And we rented a building, took all their equipment, and started collecting all of their materials that they had. And then, at that time, we also began the process of opening a number of drop-off sites. We've got good community partners in Kent County, as you do here, and so we went to Meijer store, we went to D&W's and the like, and they said, yeah, you can put drop-off sites here because everybody's got to go to the grocery store sometime, and so people would go on Saturday and drop off the recyclables at these containers, and we had 26 drop-off sites throughout the county, and we did that for several years, and it was very expensive to pick up those drop-off sites. But not only that, when we took them back to our facility, processing was very difficult. When I first came to Kent County and I looked at their operation, I thought, oh, I hope OSHA doesn't walk in here. I mean, it was terrible. I mean, these big trucks would come into the building, these 40-yard roll-offs, and dump it on the concrete, and everybody scatters, and then they start scooping it up and taking it places, and I thought, this is nuts. So two things happened at that time. We decided that drop-off sites in general were not efficient for the way to collect sizable amount of recyclable materials. And so what we did is we formed a recycling committee made up of, again, we had waste hauling companies, we had business leaders, we had political leaders on this committee. We said, we've got to come up with a different model. And what the result of that was is we said, we came up with a plan that would be, we would back off drop-off sites and force, or not force, but move everybody in the direction of curbside. And that effort right there took public education with our waste hauling community and with our business leaders and the political leaders, because it was all new to them. Hey, we go to the grocery store, we drop off the recyclables, that's easy. What do you mean curbside? So that was a major effort. One of the leading communities was City Grand Rapids, who said, yeah, we're going to do that. And they bought all these bins and distributed those throughout the city, and they kind of kicked it off. And then slowly but surely, private waste companies, if they wanted to be competitive in the business, they figured out they just couldn't provide refuse service. They also had to provide recycling services, and so they did. And that's how we kind of made that transformation. The drop-off sites, it was alluded to in rural areas, they are very convenient. And Lisa and I had a discussion at lunchtime. You have to be very strategic at where you locate them, because you get materials in them more so than in recycling containers that you don't want. People kind of, it only takes 1 or 2%, but they sneak things in there that are just not, are hazardous and what have you. So we only have a few drop-off sites left, but they're fenced. We've got cameras, we've got staff, and things like that, so they're managed. But you do need them in rural areas. There's no doubt about that. We operated that facility, recycling facility, for dual stream, and curbside kept growing and growing and growing. But when it was all said and done, we went back to the issue of convenience again, and then also newer technologies. And fortuitously, in Kent County, Rapid, our bus system, was in the same block we were, where we had a recycling process center. They needed to expand. And so we eventually said, we kind of did another study. We amended our solid waste plan. We said, let's move towards single stream. And so we made that decision in 2008. And I think that was part of my discussion when I came over here, when I was invited by Arn. And I said, that's the direction we're going to go in. But not only that, we made a commitment. Our Board of Public Works made a commitment that it shouldn't just be for Kent County, it should be a regional facility. We do take products from Muskegon, we take some products from Kalamazoo, we take products from other areas. So, and I'd like to, later on we should have a conversation about regionalization, because that's an important subject. The facility we ended up building is $10 million. Boards of Public Works, the county issued the bonds, but my department, I don't get any money from the county taxpayers or anybody else to pay for that operation. It has to come out of that operation. Now in Kent County, I do have other facilities. We do own and operate a landfill. We do own a waste energy facility. We combust 190,000 tons of garbage a day. We make electricity, we sell it to consumers of energy. What did I say? 190,000 tons of garbage a year there, and we make electricity. And we also own a transfer station. We have cooperative agreements with waste hauling companies like Republic in all of these operations. It's not just a government operation. All of it's relationships. So we do have the single stream. It's been operating since 2010. If I had a wish, I wish it was bigger. It was designed to process 18 tons an hour. You know, when you process at the max, of course, you know, you got to be on your toes in terms of maintenance. We had to hire another maintenance person because maintenance is pretty much round the clock. We run 2 shifts at the facility, and we, like I said, we could expand probably, if I had a 5-year plan, I would say we could build another one in this region to serve, you know, everybody, and still come out economically. How did we get that going? In 2009, in our old dual stream facility, we only processed, at the end of the year, 12,000 tons of material. So that's about 1,000 tons a month. Oh, I'm going over that. Going over that.
I'll pull it up soon.
The reason I mention that is now we're processing 35,000 tons. And that's all material that makes, goes back into the market. Now, when we got it going, like we sat down with the mayor, City Grand Rapids city manager, and they said, oh, we want to do single stream, we want to get going, we'll do it neighborhood by neighborhood. And we said, forget that. You got to do the whole city. You educate the whole city, you do the whole city. So at that time, our department loaned them $2 million. They went to Cascade Engineering, who's a Grand Rapids company, and bought all the cards, handed them out to all the everybody in their city, 40,000 residents, and so they could get going on that. Then all the other, as like I mentioned earlier, all the other private haulers said, we want to be competitive, so they started offering that service as well, recycle cards to their residents. So that's kind of how it got started, and I went like 5 minutes over my time.
Okay, well, that's a good segue into what I asked Elisa to cover. She's going to talk about the City of Grand Rapids and the incentive program that they put in place.
Thank you, Doug. I feel like, thank you for your leadership and your work. I feel like you're Apple inventing the iPhone or the iPad, and then we built this app to go on top of it. So I really appreciate everything that you've done. So I work for an organization called Local First, and we work with businesses from as far north as Grand Haven, down to Grand Rapids, down to Saugatuck, so that kind of triangular area. And we talk a lot about building a sustainable local economy. And back in 2008, we had just commissioned this research, a research study from a company called Civic Economics to look at how money moved through different types of business in the community. And we were specifically looking at how it moved through locally owned businesses versus non-locally owned businesses. And when I talk about local businesses, our model is not one based on location, it's based on ownership. So all of the businesses that we work with are locally owned, they're privately held, they're headquartered here in West Michigan. And that study showed that when you spend money at those kinds of businesses, 73% more of it stays in the community and recirculates. And we were doing this back in 2008. So Michigan's economy was not in a great place at that point. It was about to get worse. But we said, okay, if 73% more money stays in the community, if you're supporting those kinds of businesses, what can happen if we, in Kent County specifically is the region we studied, what can happen if we in Kent County can shift $1 in $10 that we're currently spending to local businesses? So not spend new money, just redirect where we're spending money. And they found that if we could do that, it would have $140 million in economic impact within Kent County and would create 1,600 full-time jobs. So in 2008, we took that research to the City of Grand Rapids, totally unrelated to what they were doing at that point with recycling, and said, hey, this is important information. You as local government leaders need to know that businesses, different types of businesses have a different economic impact on the community, and we want to talk to the community more and more about supporting local businesses because we believe that will create jobs here, it will create all sorts of other indirect economic impact as well as direct economic impact. And the city can certainly have a role in shifting that $1 in $10 because you're a large municipality, you're making all kinds of purchases, right? So keep more of your money here. Unbeknownst to us at that point, they were actually looking at several different contracts for programs that offered recycling incentives because they were going to be becoming part of Kent County's single stream recycling program, and they wanted some sort of additional incentive program on it that would help benefit local businesses. And those contracts were for companies not in Michigan. They were around the United States, and they were quite large. One of them was an over $1 million contract for over 5 years, and the money would have gone directly to California. And so we had a series of conversations with city leadership and basically decided, hey, we can do this ourselves. We can build a recycling incentive program ourselves. And so that's what we did. We set out to create a program that's called MyGR City Points. At this point, 12,000 households within the city of Grand Rapids participate in the program. Over 250 locally owned businesses have participated in the last 4 years that it's been running, and they've accepted thousands of rewards. So I can tell you more about how we did it. Renee's asked me to talk about who was there in the beginning a little bit later, but basically the way the program functions is if you are recycling, if you live in the city of Grand Rapids, it's free to participate in single stream recycling. And I personally am so grateful for it because it makes it so much easier than I used to haul my 2 carts out down multiple stairs of steps because I have a 100-year-old house, and now it's so much easier to just pull my bin down, but or my cart down. But so it's free to participate if you're recycling. Cascade Engineering affixed all of the carts with RFID tags, and the city made the investment in RFID technology for all of their trucks. So if I'm putting my recycling out every other week, the recycling truck comes past my house, picks up my recycling, scans my RFID tag, knows that I recycled that week, and then I receive an average of the points, I receive points for the average weight recycled within my neighborhood. Those points are redeemable on an online platform called myjerseycitypoints.com if you want to check it out. They're redeemable for rewards from locally owned businesses, and that's the role Local First has played. In addition to helping line up all of the local companies that built the program, like Cascade Engineering and Atomic Object, which is a local software company that developed the program, and the Image Shop, which is a local marketing company that designed the website and all the promo materials for households for the program, we helped bring all of these other vendors to the table to bring rewards, to offer rewards, and we still do that. So those rewards are anything from like a free cup of coffee at your favorite local coffee shop to a buy one get one free special at your favorite local restaurant. It's free for locally owned businesses to participate in the program and offer rewards, and the program, really the backside of it, is all designed around them, because what we were trying to do was create an added value for the consumer. And we felt like the best way to do that was to create an incentive for the business, so it would be a good marketing tool for the business. So I mentioned there are 250 businesses participating in the program right now. I think there are 95 rewards posted today. So they can post things and take them off whenever they want. They have ultimate control. Many of them report that they've gotten tons of new customers this way. It's very good for specifically neighborhood businesses because they can post rewards that are geared towards the people that live around them. Some businesses have also started recycling through the program. Another piece of what happened when we did this is that if you were a business in the city of Grand Rapids before we created this My Jersey City Points program, you had to hire a private company to come pick up your recycling. Now, if you're a business in the city, you're able to participate in, you're able to actually recycle through the program, which was a really big deal to a lot of those businesses. Some of the restaurants that are going through large quantities of stuff, that's not helpful for. But for little retail shops, it's really helpful. And so they've increased their recycling through the program. And then they also feel very values aligned because they want to recycle, but then they're also incenting other people to recycle. So it's created this like effect of pride too. I would also say amongst the business owners, there's a feeling that the city cares about them because they have made this an exclusive opportunity for locally owned businesses to participate in. And I don't think that can really be underestimated either. It's a really good, there's some good PR behind that. There's some really good feeling of support, and we know that sales have been shifting. Within the first 3 months of the launch of the My Jersey City Points program and single stream recycling had launched 3 months prior, and then we launched the My Jersey City Points program, and within that first 6 months, recycling increased by 80% in the city of Grand Rapids, and waste declined by 13%. And that stayed pretty consistent over the last 4 years. We have seen upticks as we do certain specials around different times of year, and we ask people to do, like if we do more promo around the holiday season, where we want people to recycle more of their packaging and things, we've seen upticks in the program in that time.
Great, thank you. So you want to share with what you've done up in Emmett County, expand on that?
Okay. So I'll continue with my little slideshow here. Some of the other things we do in Emmett County, and then I'll back up to how it works so well. We recycle all hazardous recyclables, things like motor oil, antifreeze, fluorescent light bulbs, electronics, all free all the time. We also recycle a number of difficult to recycle materials such as mattresses, which go to a regional recycling facility. Latex paint recycling, where it gets turned right back into latex paint, goes back on the shelf. We also recycle plant plastics, and these go to a factory where they're literally cleaning, melting down, and making brand new branded trays and plant pots. We also have full service yard waste composting facility, and we do create marketable products right on site, and they're very, very popular and pretty much sell out every single year. So I think we're considered to have one of the most comprehensive recycling programs in the state, definitely for rural areas. We accept over 60 different recyclables, and each one has a story. Each one has a success story in terms of how it's marketed, how it's prepared, and the factories that benefit. In 2010, we expanded to a dual stream facility, and you heard how Kent County chose to go to single stream. So at the point they were going to single stream, we're like the little brother, you know, we're moving up to dual stream. But it was a really, really strategic move, because what we wanted to do was provide as much convenience as possible while adding many more materials for recycling, while at the same time maintaining very high quality marketable materials. So we have two categories. One is paper, boxes, and bags, and we do include plastic film bags in that category, which is very unusual. And the other is mixed containers, and we are able to add a number of different kinds of household containers in that mix and receive them at our facility. So I've got just a few slides I'm going to run through here to show you what our facility looks on the inside, but one of the neat little backstories is that there is a facility, a county-owned and run facility in Wisconsin that was upgrading. It served 300,000 people, and they were looking to clear out their space to put in new equipment, and so we purchased the entire facility. We totally dismantled it. We sent over 20 semi-trailers, we dismantled everything, sent it across the UP, over the Mackinac Bridge, into a warehouse until we could design, refurbish the equipment, and put it in our new facility. So even our equipment is recycled. So that's how much we believe in it. Pennies on the dollar we bought that equipment for, and we also got equipment that we couldn't have afforded any other way for such a small community. So it was really a benefit. So we recycled nearly 10,000 tons in 2013, and we supply over 23 factories in Michigan with our materials. And so this gets really to the economic benefit side of it. We really believe that working with local, regional, and state markets, it's a win-win. So we are improving processing and transportation efficiencies and making a more cost-effective program. And I think the materials are really beautiful too. So here's an example. I'm just going to take you through a smattering. Remember, we got 50 to 60 stories, but I'm just going to share a couple. Tin cans, these are your soup cans. They're going to EJ, which is formerly East Jordan Iron Works. They make almost every single storm drain and manhole cover in the country, in the world. Our tin cans are in them, so we're really proud of that. Our neighbor to the east, Sheboygan County, all of our milk cartons, juice boxes, soup broth containers, all those aseptic containers go to Great Lakes Tissue, and they make tissue and toweling products out of it. Asphalt shingles, they used to all go to the landfill. They're heavy, they're full of oil, they're a petroleum product, total waste. We have our Roofs to Road program where asphalt shingles are taken to a plant where they're chipped and made into HMA, hot mix asphalt, and go right back on the roads. Now this program, many of our recyclables, almost all of them we take for free. Some of them there is a user fee, and that fee is half of what it costs to throw them out. So again, a win-win. Every roofing company in the area brings their shingles to us because they save on disposal. They're not disposing, they're recycling. Everyone feels good, everyone saves money. 97% of our recyclables supply businesses in the state of Michigan. It's all about resource conservation, keeping jobs and materials here in the state. We also feel really, really strongly about promotion, education, and building community. People in Emmett County are really proud of our program. They love it. It's second nature, and it makes everyone feel better. We also support public art. I think making recycling fun, interesting, attractive can't hurt, right? So we do some of that. We also really emphasize how recyclables are turned into products that you value. And this is something that we use with our school tours. This is like a room-size mural. So this is actually quoted in the paper where the chair of the Emmett County Republican Women's Club said that the Emmett County Recycling Program is a dream for Republicans, which I thought was really great. And the reason she said that, I mean, there are many reasons, but the main one is there have been no tax dollars expended, no county dollars since 1991. So I want to share a little bit about how our program works. So I based our program on the 3 C's. We started with a solid waste plan. We knew what we wanted. We had goals and objectives. We wanted a recycling program that was cost-effective, convenient, and comprehensive. So that was a no-brainer. The question was how to get there. So the 3 things listed below, ordinance, flow control, play as you throw, are the policy tools that we use. Now, they might not be right for every community. Michigan has a very limited toolbox for what works. This is what we use. It worked for us. Pay-as-you-throw is considered by the EPA to be the single most effective way you can reduce the waste stream in a community. The more you charge for garbage, the more you throw out, the more you pay. If you have a recycling program that's free or it can be used for free, people are incentivized to recycle more and throw out less. They don't have to be environmentalists. Flow control. We require all the solid waste in Emmett County to go to the Emmett County owned and operated transfer station. This is something that some waste haulers and landfills don't like. They want to take their garbage where they want to take it. But the fact is, it's all the same pie. It's the stuff, right? How are you going to discard it? If you can't incentivize towards recycling and away from disposal, it's a losing battle and a slippery slope. So flow control works for us both in terms of incentivizing recycling and also helps fund our programs. And then the third piece for us is real aggressive marketing of recyclables. And we do this because our recyclables are really high quality. We work with local, regional, and state markets. And it makes a difference, definitely on the margins, but it makes a difference when you work hard to maintain that quality material. And as was mentioned by Matt, market volatility is extreme. Remember, we got 60 materials. We're looking at a low of 10 when the market dropped along with the entire economy in late 2008, 2009, to highs of hundreds of dollars a ton. If you take that $60, right, to process your paper, it makes a real big difference if you're getting 10 bucks a ton or 120 bucks a ton. Operating in that environment for the long term is one of the reasons I think it's really important for the public sector to be involved. You've got to equalize, stabilize, and provide a consistent program that's going to be comprehensive. So when we started our initial funding, we did have a 2-year millage. It was just a quarter mil. It was just 2 years. That was pre-1991. That was our capitalization. We bought our trucks, our bins, and our equipment at the facility. But our ongoing funding, initially, it was half of it would be funded by the transfer station tip fee, and half of it would be funded by the sale of recyclables. And what we've done over the past 10, 20 years is diversify that funding. So we're gradually minimizing how much comes from the transfer station tip fee. We are charging user fees and contract for service fees to help broaden our funding base. And still more than half of the cost of our program is covered by the sale of recyclables. So here's just a snapshot. Here's a snapshot. This is just 1 year. This is a snapshot. $2.5 million in direct economic benefit. And Emmett County is a really small county. So this is both avoided costs of landfill as well as revenue that came in from the sale of recyclables. So these are very marketable commodities, and there's so much opportunity out there. And so whatever policy tools you end up choosing, or what, you've got programs in existence and how can you move things forward, I really think policies that incentivize recycling, help fund the program are the way to go. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Steve, you're up next.
All right. Well, from a manufacturer's perspective, one of the things that, as a manufacturer, it's all about profits. You want to stay profitable as a company. So we've been primarily steel stampers for years. We've been in business for 51 years. And I think the stamping industry has always recycled their metals. I mean, it's just kind of a no-brainer type of a thing. So we've always recycled our steel, our stainless steel, and our aluminum products for years. Last year, the owners of our company challenged me to say, what if we get into other types of recycling? Can it create some revenue stream for Fleet Engineers? So we took a look at that. And what I ended up doing is I contacted a local recycler And they came out for an afternoon, and we actually did some dumpster diving, is what I call it. We basically went through our whole operation. We've got 4 facilities. 3 of those are manufacturing, and 1 is a warehouse. And we're located all on what we call a fleet campus, so all 4 buildings are right there. And we basically went through all the garbages in the office area, and we'd say, that's recyclable, that's not. Went to the plant and took a look at all of our large dumpsters in the plant, took a look at what was inside every garbage can, and basically came up with 8 different value streams that we felt that we could recycle and actually make some revenue on that. And what we came up with was 4 different streams, or actually 8 different streams: office paper, mixed paper, clear film, which is a lot of stretch wrap, plastic bags, that type of product, corrugated, plastic banding, water bottles, plastic purgings and regrinds from our plastics injection mold operation, and then metal clad composites. And at this point in time, we really didn't have a feel for how much we would actually generate. So what they offered to do was put a trailer on our facility and said, let's just give it a try to see what you would generate. And we kind of had a little bit of a feel, but really didn't know for sure how much we would actually generate. So we ended up making an investment of about $2,200. I met with all the various production teams on the floor, and we looked at what they were generating from their area, and we bought garbage cans and recycle containers, and we spent $2,200 doing that. And in the office area, we ended up getting 2 different waste baskets at every office station, 1 for office paper and 1 for mixed paper. And we still generated garbage, but I took the garbage cans out of everybody's area and we put them in a central location. So it forced people to really try to recycle and move the paper elsewhere in their operation. And through that process, we did that purchase. We came in, we did a training session with all of our employees and basically told them, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to recycle. And the recycler had given us 50 skids, 50 Gaylord boxes that we would have, and the trailer load holds 32 of these boxes. So on February 1st of 2013, we officially kicked off our recycling program. And then 3 weeks later, I got a phone call and said, hey, your recycle trailer was full. I said, you're kidding me, we did that in 3 weeks? What's in there? So we opened up the trailer and we started looking at what was inside there, and 50% of what was inside that trailer was corrugated, and the other 50% was plastic, and we had a few things here and there. I thought, wow, this is pretty incredible. This is amazing. So we called them up, came back, swapped out trailers, dropped another trailer. 3 weeks later, filled that one up, and then I started thinking, oh boy, we're generating a little more than I thought we would. So we started looking at repurposing some of the corrugated. That was the first thing. We had over half of that trailer load was corrugated, and started looking at some of that corrugated, and we said, we could reuse some of this from our process. So we started doing that, and we ended up through this whole process repurposing a lot of our materials and reducing some of those that waste stream, and then our business started picking up. And today we're still generating a full container of recycled products every 3 to 5 weeks in that time frame. And it's just amazing how much we're doing. So through this process, we actually saved money and generated some revenue. I want to kind of share some of the dollars and cents. We were actually paying for a corrugated dumpster. If you believe it or not, in fact, we've got a cleaning crew that comes in. They come in 3 nights a week and clean our offices and clean our plant. And one day, the owner of the cleaning crew said, Steve, he said, would you be interested in letting me take your corrugated off your hands? I said, really? He says, yeah, you could eliminate your corrugated dumpster. I said, well, it's funny you should ask. We're going to start a recycling program. So we ended up saving $168 a month, or $2,106 annually from eliminating that dumpster. And then we have a wood plant, and in our wood plant we generate some plywood scrap. And I was actually paying for a construction dumpster to come in to haul some of that away. So we ended up having another $1,200 a year savings in that. And we had contacted our pallet suppliers. We buy a lot of pallets at Fleet Engineers. He was willing to drop a trailer at our facility, and he does this every week. We keep a trailer at one of our shipping docks, and we take all of our wood scrap, and he hauls that away for free. So it's not costing me anything longer to actually do that. So we have busted up skids that he'll take. We have crates that come in from some of our overseas suppliers, and those get repurposed in his. And then all of our plywood scrap, basically we manufacture a line of roll-up doors out of 3/4 inch plywood, and we have end strips that we cut off. And so he sells some of that as furring strips. I've got some contractors that will come in and actually take furring strips off our hands. We've got 2 contractors in the area that will do that. And then he'll take and haul that away, and we, about maybe every 3 weeks, we'll fill that up, and he'll repurpose that, reuse that wood for his skid making process, or he'll mulch it up into type of mulch. So we had a savings in that. And then the cleaning crew, believe it or not, as we went through our operation, we had 48 trash containers all throughout our plant. And we ended up getting that reduced down to 14. And we ended up having each one of the team cells in the plant floor take care of their own trash. So we have at the end of every shift a 10-minute cleanup time. So they take all the trash and all the recycled products in their areas, and then they move them to one central location. And what we end up doing is setting up a racking system in the middle of our plant, and we have all these corrugated boxes, and they dump that at the end of the shift. And the cleaning crew came in and said, you're saving us time each month. So we had a $90 reduction in their fee for cleaning. So that ended up being an additional savings. And then the revenue that we started generating, in 17 months since we started, we've generated $17,773 in revenue on a recycled product. And it's just kind of a shock. The first 4 months that we did this program, I was averaging about $2,200 a month in recycling revenue. And I thought, it's a kind of double-edged sword here a little bit, because you think, hey, that's pretty good revenue that we're generating. But then when I saw the first year that we threw away $125,000 worth of plastic, and I know that I'm buying about 90 cents a pound for that material and getting about 15 cents a pound back for it, it doesn't take very long to figure out we got to find another way of trying to use up that material. So we made investment in our injection press. We bought a new screw and a new barrel, which allowed us to get a better blend of our product. And today, 15% of every one of our plastic parts that we produce has recycled content in that. And we've gone through a testing process to be able to prove that the product is impact resistant. We make a line of fenders that has to have a cold impact resistant. And through some of the testing, which we just completed about 3 months ago, we found that a recycled product outperforms the virgin material that we're doing. It's the way that the molecule is linked in the plastic, and we were shocked at that. So it was basically a no-brainer for us. So the actual amount of revenue that we're generating is going to be dropping because a big part of our content was basically plastics. So Flea Engineers is a fairly small company. We have 120 employees, and in 17 months, between the recycling revenue that we generated and the savings that we had, we're saving about $6,400 a year. It resulted in a net income for us of $24,247, which was quite amazing. So it's been a very good, successful program for us. Just looking at some of the numbers, in 17 months, we have recycled 141,700 pounds of plastic materials, or 70.85 net tons of plastic materials. We recycled 85,994 pounds, or 43 net tons of paper and corrugated. And that's 17 months. It's like, wow, if we would have done this 20 years ago, just think how much we would have actually saved and actually generated. What it's done overall, and the recycler has a computer program, and they keep track of how much we generate and what it actually saves. So for the environment, we've saved 30,178 gallons of oil, 301,000 gallons of water. We've saved 731 trees, 1,364,000 kilowatts of energy, and 665 cubic yards of landfill space. And then the amount of pollutants in the air, 2,580 pounds of air pollution effluents that we've eliminated. So we've had a pretty good success story with just a small company. So I was asked to kind of share our story today. We've got a long ways to go. Like I say, we've only been in this for 17 months, but we're not doing the composting. We still have a couple yard dumpsters, 8-yard dumpsters that are being picked up each week with garbage, and we need to start looking at, that's our next step, is trying to see what we can do, maybe compost, what we can do for other products, and that's the biggest challenge that you have is being a small company, how do you get rid of that economically? But we were able to, with the waste stream that we generated, with the variety of processes, I guess, that we had, actually make some revenue on the product. So we were pretty fortunate as a manufacturer to be able to do that. So it's an important part of our business operation. We offer the recycling program to all of our employees. So any employees that want to bring in, if they don't have a recycling program available to them in their households, they can bring that product in. So we have employees that bring in milk jugs and water drink bottles and Gatorade bottles and magazines, and they just bring them into work. I see them come in and dump it in, and it's no cost to them. It helps with our revenue, and it's been a pretty good success story.
Great, thank you. I wish we could have had more businesses on the panel because I know that there's a lot of these stories out there to be shared, and I was just quickly adding up our numbers from a company perspective because we've been at it about 6 years, and just to warn you, the last 10% is probably the hardest.
Yeah, probably.
So we've diverted like 90% of our waste. About 6 years ago we started that. So we've, cost avoidance about $12,000 on waste hauling fees, or $12,000 per year. So about $72,000 we've cost avoided paying for landfill. And we're also earning money on most of the commodities that you mentioned too. So, and we do a truck about every 3-4 weeks. And then we're on a will call basis with our waste haulers. So when our dumpster's full, we call them up and they're there the next day. So anyway, okay, next I've asked each one to spend a little time talking about what our next steps could be as a community or as a business or as an organization. So I wanted to start with Matt here.
All right. Well, first, I think we should give Steve a round of applause for the work Thanks for making the choices that you've made to increase Michigan's recycling rate. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. So, as far as plan of action, I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about plan of action as individuals. All of this happens at the individual level. So you all are making individual choices every day. Whether you're going to talk about recycling and talk about the good that it does for the economy, or use your recycling bin, or purchase products that are made from recycled content, or purchase less and reduce the amount of waste you're generating. So we have to think about the whole waste stream and all of our individual actions that we can take. So as far as communities, we've heard that there are different models that could be used. And if you look across Michigan, every single model is used. You've got public-private partnerships, you've got public entities, you've got subscription-based services. One of our challenges, and it was hit on earlier by Brenda, is participation. Even if we do have a recycling system in place and everybody has a bin, how do we get people to use it? So again, it's an individual choice, making sure that people have the information they need and they feel that their individual choices are having an impact. So as communities, providing those goalposts, providing what the private haulers or the public-private partnerships are going to strive for is where you're going to get your most success. So identifying how education is going to be provided to the consumers or the businesses, who's going to set up the infrastructure and how it's going to be hauled, or what type of public-private partnership you're going to set up, and how it's going to be funded, how you're going to integrate volume-based disposal pricing, so that people see that economic incentive, so you can talk about these cost avoidances. Setting up a system that has success, there are many, many ways to do it. The first thing you need to do is get to talk to people in your community, talk to me, talk to other people at the Department of Environmental Quality. We've got Emily and Tim here. Wave your hand. So they're here to assist you in identifying the different funding mechanisms available to set up recycling programs. And then again, I'm going to say it again, make your voice heard when tough decisions are coming at you about how you're going to fund these. Get together with other communities and share information. Look at what's worked in neighboring communities and look at it on a regional basis and building a system regionally. So I think those are your first, I don't know how many steps I just ran through, but those are your first steps. And of course, I'll give my information at the end, or maybe we can provide it. Please give me a call. We can talk about the different funding options, the different systems that are in place, and how to set up services. So thank you.
Great. Karen.
So before I talk a little bit more, I want to know in this room, how many of you are interested in recycling from a business perspective? If you could raise your hand, nice and high. And how many of you are more interested in recycling from a residential perspective? Want to see. So we're a little bit more on the business side, so that's good for us to know. In our report back in 2011 that sought to identify the economic and environmental value of recycling in Michigan, we said that if Michigan, as a state, could get to 50% recycling, then that would mean $500 million in revenue from just the value of the material that we're diverting from the landfill to recycling. That's very significant. And I think just, one little example that Steve provided shows you how we get there. One of the things that I wanted to go back and explain a little bit more about is that you can see from Steve's example again that it really is about the containers. And it's about, collections and contracts, and it's about how that material actually moves through a system. And that the decision that communities are making to go from, separate, from, what traditional ways of collection to dual and single stream material collection has done some things for the industry. It used to be in the city of Lansing, where I live, that the recycling truck would come by and, paper would go in one place and glass would go in another place. And so you had to have all these different, places on the truck where all these materials went so they could be kept separate, because there wasn't a place to take them back where all that separation took place. Now with single stream recycling, you don't have all those individual compartments. So not only do you not spend the time at the curb separating all that stuff out, but you can infinitely expand the number of recyclables you're collecting. So now we can accept aseptic packages, bulky plastics, kids' toys, kids' plastic toys, or 5-gallon buckets. You could never really recycle that before because of the limitations of these collection vehicles. So now that we have single stream recycling and the ability of these material recovery facilities that are highly technological with optical sorting equipment and gravity sorting equipment and that kind of thing, we can collect anything from anybody in simple, convenient ways and take it back there for sorting, which makes it easy. For Steve, it'll probably be made easier for Steve as he gets, I think more into what he's doing. And we certainly want to make it easier for businesses to do what they're doing it as well. But in the residential sector, that is surely making things easier. So I just wanted to call that out, because this movement to single stream recycling is nothing that it's definitely a trend. We're going to see more of it, and we're going to see carts going with single stream recycling, because as you expand the ability for us to collect more materials, then we need to provide residents with more space in their bins, and this is what carts do. So very key things that happen. Cascade Engineering makes a cart that's made from recycled commodities right here in Michigan, and if we can get carts placed at every curb, we are doing well, because generally the placement of carts and the advent of dual or single stream recycling means that recycling is increased by 60, 70, 80%. So there are real reasons that investments need to be made in local communities to bring them up to snuff, to provide services and get as much material as possible. I just wanted to make that clear. As far as resources that are available to you, every single one of us, I mean, all the people in the industry right now have been through it. The Michigan Recycling Coalition provides a place for professionals to get together to talk about the issues that they face. I bet Steve's going to be a member someday because he's going to be trying to get to that last bit of material that's really hard to get to. And my network of people in our organization, the Michigan Recycling Coalition, is the network of people you need to get to figure out, okay, so where are the markets for this weird stuff? What do I do with my toilet? What do I do with, the fabric? What do I do with treated wood? All kinds of crazy stuff that, ends up having to be dealt with in one way or another. And you'll see waste exchanges. Renee could probably talk about the waste exchange.
Lisa is going to.
Oh, good. The waste exchange in this region. We heard discussion about waste reduction as we start to look at recycling. Then we start to see why did that money need to be wasted in the first place? Why are we having to throw that out in the first place? So once we start to delve into these issues, more issues get uncovered, and there are numerous resources out there to educate yourself about doing it. But where I think the real work happens is in conversations with people, is in looking at your waste contracts and finding out what services you're paying for, doing the dumpster dive, maybe hiring a consultant, maybe hiring some students to do a kind of waste assessment or waste audit to find out what it is you're actually is flowing through your facilities or is flowing even through your communities to get a better handle on that, and designing your contracts or writing your contracts in a way that better works for you and accomplishes the sustainability and recycling goals that you have. And, one last point, and that is that depending on the quantity of materials that you generate, you're either going to have to pay for recycling services, you're going to either get recycling services for free, or you're going to generate revenue from your recycling. And it really all depends on the quantity and the viability of someone providing you services to get a hold of that material. So it's not, it's not a done deal that you're all going to get revenue from what you do, but you will see cost savings, you will see good PR that comes out of this, and you will be contributing to something that we're all trying to achieve here at the state or in the state.
Sure. In my wrap up, I would really say it's about collaboration. And, really there is a lot of resources throughout the state of Michigan, MRC being one of them. Membership comes as low as $250, just for those people who need to know. And that organization does a great job of making sure that people are connected with other folks that can help them answer questions. But beyond that, you have a lot of resources locally when it comes to your hauling organizations and brokers and materials recovery facilities. I mean, you can call anyone at Kent County or West Shore Recycling and ask for a tour and come in and have a large-scale conversation about material recovery. You can call anyone from Goodwill. I know just last week I called Jim up and I said, hey, I've got a uniform guy who's got 10 Gaylords of uniforms. Is that something you want? Because I know that Jim makes money from textiles. I mean, there are people throughout this community that when you get connected into it as it relates to recycling and you start collaborating, you'll start finding homes for things that you never even knew existed. Goodwill out of Grand Rapids, I love Goodwill as an example because they do all kinds of crazy stuff. They sell stuffed animals for I think like 30 cents a pound. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's more than I make from most of my single stream commodities. And they're selling used stuffed animals for that amount of money. It's just crazy. Political will is the other big one. Those of you who are here in municipalities, influencing political will and making sure that people within your community have the education level in order to make decisions, rational, educated, smart decisions as it relates on what to do with recycling is probably the number one thing that you can do. And again, there's people like Matt Flechter, there's people like the Michigan Recycling Coalition, Alyssa will do it, Kent County, Doug will do it. I mean, there are people that will come out to any municipality in the state of Michigan and take time and spend it with you to make sure that your municipality understands and is educated about not only funding factors, but how different program works, the cost in it, and even the matrix that you see from Local First as it relates to how to do rewards programs. Because of that, and because of the cost factor of what RFD tags have become, Cascade Engineering puts an RFD tag in every one of their containers new now. Regardless of whether you want it there or not, there is an RFD tag in that container now. Because they know at some time in the future, this is going to become important to everybody. And there's going to be a way to track this material that will reward the individual and it will reward the community. And part of that political will and part of that education comes down to what the governor's whole program is looking at right now, and that really comes down to tracking of material. And whether that's done on a municipal level, a business level, or a county level, until we can start providing honest, true information to our government partners on what type of quantities that we're producing throughout the state, the numbers that will reflect whether or not Michigan is successful or unsuccessful will always be skewed. So it's up to us in this room to influence that political will and to make sure that that voice is heard. And the collaboration is just the key point for you guys. I mean, that's what you're here for today, and we appreciate it. And, a shameless plug for Michigan Recycling Coalition. They do a tremendous amount of work throughout the state. And if you're not currently a member of the Michigan Recycling Coalition, it's not expensive. But your small support, both as an individual in your investment in time and resources and collaboration, plus the small amount of money that you give them to be a member, does great rewards throughout the state every day.
Okay, thank you. Doug?
I really enjoyed Steve's presentation about business, and he was talking, it's not only recycling, but it's dollars. And my closing remark was supposed to be in collaboration, but I'll get to it in a second. I want to talk about dollars. I mentioned earlier, we do have a waste energy facility. We burn solid waste, we make electricity. We have ash. Out of the ash, we take out ferrous metals. The rest of the ash goes to our landfills. I've got monofill. A monofill it's a landfill just for ash. Right now I'm negotiating with a company to mine the non-ferrous metals out of that ash. There's between $9 and $12 million worth of non-ferrous metals in that ash that I collected over 20 years. That material doesn't necessarily have to be in the ash. It should be in your pocket. That's money, that's 500 grand or more a year that the community threw away. Now, of course, I'll have a company come in, they're gonna set up $1 million worth of equipment and they're gonna process it and they're gonna recover it. But why not get it out ahead of time? The other point I wanna make is, in my 3 points I had in my earlier talk was public education. Our children and our grandchildren know more about recycling than we do. We get between 3,000 and 5,000 school children going through our recycling facility a year, and they're excited about it. We get college students that go through our facilities every year. So, there's kind of like a generational gap there that in terms of what we should be doing and what we will be doing. But it's dollars and educating the public. And then in closing, collaboration and cooperation. I believe that in our region we can sustain another facility in recycling, but we have to do it cooperatively. And to do that, we have to have conversations between counties and municipalities. Quite often that's difficulty because everybody has their own little fiefdoms or whatever, parochial. Michigan's very parochial. But garbage and recyclables do not stop at city lines. It doesn't stop at county lines. And it certainly doesn't stop in state lines. And we know, the Canadians know, it doesn't stop at country lines because they brought a lot of stuff over here. So we have to think on a regional basis how we can implement these facilities together.
Thank you. Brenda?
A lot of good information from everyone today. I've really appreciated hearing everyone. I think in Muskegon County, we have to stop and take a look at what we have available. The fact that it is available to most of our residents at the curbside. Look at what makes sense for us. You know, my viewpoint has changed dramatically over the years from, you know, we need to recycle everything to the fact that we need to look at what all the programs are and what makes sense for our environment. We have to think about the total carbon footprint we're leaving as we're implementing these recycling programs and trying to make sure that we're doing it in the most environmentally friendly way that we can. I'm not saying I don't promote recycling. I didn't mean to say, make it sound like that in any way, shape, or form. But I want to look at it logically and say, what can we collect and what is the most environmentally correct way to collect and then get it to the processing. You know, we've heard a lot about the carts and the bins and everything. I think it's got to be looked at on an individual area level because not everything makes sense for everyone. We've got a lot of communities that we service that our residents are saying we don't want the carts. They don't have enough room for a second cart. You know, so I'm not saying one program, what I'm trying to say is one program doesn't fit all. We really have to look at it in a collaborative way, but thinking that we need to be open to servicing whatever makes sense. One of the questions that Renee had posed to me was, what can we do to get the other haulers to recycle? I personally have never talked with the other haulers to know, but from my participation in the recycling committee, Joel, you can back me up on this. I think we contacted pretty much, Cynthia, all of the different haulers in it, what they were all offering it at some level. So again, that leads me back to the point that I think we need to educate people on what is available. I know when I was with the county, my role was pretty much 90% education on getting out there and promoting and educating people of what we can do and what can't be done. So I think that that is really one of the biggest things that we can do in promoting it is to let people know what's available. In Doug was mentioning the kids. I used to love it when I worked for the county because I could get kids so excited, and then I'd hear from their parents, what did you do to my kid? They won't let me throw anything away. That's where we're going to see the biggest bang. And I really think that that's the key.
Good, thank you. Elise?
Sure. So I really think we're at a really great opportunity here with the state initiative. Karen, Doug, and I have all been appointed to the Governor's Recycling Council. Matt is staffing it. I really want to see everyone who's interested in recycling lean into that process. Think about where your roadblocks are, what your challenges are, and let us know, let the DEQ know, because we're really there to try to solve those problems, connect the dots, what's the best way to incentivize communities, businesses, residents to make things happen. There's some incredible best practices from other states, other cities around the nation. We know how to do it, but we do not have the policies in place at the state level set in such a way that we can utilize those best practices most effectively. We are, just jumping on Brenda's point, we are living in a resource-constrained world. We can't count on clean water anymore. Energy is not unlimited, and these resources, if we use them up and throw them out, it's getting more and more expensive to extract those resources from the ground. So it behooves all of us to say this is an opportunity. I mean, it is money saving, it can be money making, but it's hard work, it's a heavy lift, and our state is really behind the times. We are like the lowest of all the Great Lakes states in terms of recycling rate. We got huge steps to take, but the positive thing is we can only get better because we're at a point now where, we've been struggling, and some of us I think Doug and myself, our counties really jumped on the last time the state sort of offered incentives, both in terms of dollars for solid waste planning, to say, hey, here's some money to take the time to look at these issues. We looked at those issues back in the 80s. We got some state grant dollars. They weren't a lot of dollars. It doesn't have to be. It's just the seed that gets planted. You get the policies in place, you get the conversation started, and really amazing things can happen because it makes business sense. There's some great consultants out there if you're a business that can do waste audits. When we started, Renee asked me to talk a little bit about how did we get buy-in from the beginning. When I started, we had nothing. We also had a little nonprofit like Doug did in Kent County. We brought all the stakeholders to the table. We had the waste haulers, we had the environmentalists, we had the landfill owners, and we had community leaders and representatives of our Public Works Board. And we set everyone around the table, and here's the thing that was not negotiable. We knew what we wanted: cost-effective, convenient, and comprehensive recycling. All right, that was not, none of this, recycling doesn't make sense stuff that you hear from the waste industry over and over. That was not allowed. We're going to do it. We had short-term and long-term goals. Short-term, how do we fund? How do we capitalize for the short term? And then long-term, how to create a sustainable program that continues to improve. And so I think we have a great opportunity here with the state saying yes, the governor saying, okay, it makes economic sense, it'll be good for our state, and we're gonna help do the heavy lifting to get us all there. So it's a great opportunity. I really encourage everyone to become members of the MRC because they're a great voice advocating for recycling, whether you're private sector, public sector, an individual, a student. They've got all these different rates to make it work for you. You get a newsletter digitally. I mean, they'll really keep you in touch. So it's a great umbrella organization and has benefited all of us, this table, over the years. Matt has been a great resource. So I just really encourage everyone to lean into this process, and I think some great things can happen. And I do have a couple more slides, so I'm going to slam through them really quick. For us, once we started, you get your policies. Great staff is critical, and great leadership is critical. And so we were really lucky at Emmett County to have both, to build both over the years. I also think it's fun to keep recycling fun and appealing. We got lots of recycled art at our site. And we are all about keeping the green in northern Michigan, and I think that's one thing we can all agree on. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Melissa.
Well, I agree with so much of what's already been said, and I don't want to duplicate it. But there are two things that stand out to me that maybe we haven't talked about. One, I know we've talked about collaboration, but I think it's important to think about collaboration not just between different organizations, but within an organization. So in order to get our program off the ground, we really had to win over the political will of the mayor and the city manager and other city commissioners, and then the head of the purchasing department, and then the head of public works, and bring everybody to the table and make sure everybody understood what we were trying to do. So I'd encourage you to think about that. And then the other piece I think that's important is to think about unlikely allies. I don't think that most people, when they think about spreading a recycling program for the community, think about involving local businesses. But local businesses are owned by people who live in the community, who care about the community. And when you bring in a program like ours, where businesses are incentivized basically with the potential to get new customers, they're promoting the program for us. They're promoting that if you recycle, you can earn points at their business, and they're talking to people about why you should recycle. And so I would encourage you to think of others like that would have some sort of incentive that might not normally be thought of to come to the table.
Thank you. Steve.
I was asked, to look at what some of the struggles were and then some of the suggestions that we have moving forward. And I think as a small manufacturer, I think the struggles you have is just trying to learn about recycling. We didn't have anybody on staff. I didn't know anything about recycling. You start listening and talking to people and talking to the folks that are recycling and just pick out, some ideas from them. And I think some of the struggles you have is, from a manufacturer, you're always trying to look at it, what value does it have for us? If you're going to make an investment in something, you want to get a return on that investment, and that's what business is all about. So I think the struggles you have, I think some folks, we were fortunate enough to be able to have some waste streams that generated some higher revenue. I think if you have an office area and you're just dealing with just paper products. Paper doesn't bring much revenue in it. And so the cost, I think, of getting your recycled products to the centers, that's the biggest factor. Sometimes it costs more to ship a product than what you can generate in the revenue coming back for that product. We were, I think, fortunate that we had a variety of waste streams, and if you can bundle those different types of waste streams together to get a value, at least even break even, I think you're doing justice to the community. One of the things I didn't mention is we don't recycle pop bottles. We basically have a collection center in our plant that we accumulate all these pop bottles, and we have basically some of our employees as volunteers. They take turns, they go each month, they cash that money in, and we sponsor adopt-a-families at Christmas time. So last year we sponsored 15 different families. So we take that money that we generate from that. So that doesn't go to landfill, that gets recycled. So I'm gonna offer, I guess, if there's anybody in this room that's a manufacturer, the opportunity to maybe come to our facility, see how I set up our operation there. I mean, we're not a Steelcase, we're not a Herman Miller or a Hayworth that have really good programs that have gone to zero waste. If you want to see a basic recycling program that we put together at fairly low cost that generated something, I'll leave some business cards up here. Welcome to give me a call. I'll give you a plant tour. We'll spend a half hour together, and that's one way for me too to hear what some of your challenges are, and I can share at least my experiences, and I can probably learn a few things from some of you folks as well. So the offer stands, I guess. So.
Okay. All right, quickly, we have two people that I'm going to ask to come up and just quickly share. Lisa Saborn from the Employers Association of West Michigan. They have created a waste exchange, online waste exchange, so she's going to tell us about that.
Great ideas and resources. This is one more tool. We are fortunate to have this exchange. It was through a pollution prevention grant with the DEQ in partnership with the County of Muskegon. It's been up for about a year now. It's a free resource. It is for commercial, business, schools, government. It's fashioned after the traditional strikes list that we might use on the residential side. And it works the same way as with the organizations as well. When you first post, it's something that is anonymous that goes up. We're looking at all kinds of different materials from glass, batteries, electronics, plastics. We have a lot of discussions about those packing materials and things that we create in the workplace. It has reporting functions for your organization, so you can have multiple users and get those reports out. It kind of started from a discussion group we have with our environmental. One company was trying to get storage barrels, and another company was trying to get rid of them. It's just that discussion. How do you put people together? So we were hoping that this might automate that process. And then it's grown from there to look at what we might do, say, in the Port City Industrial Park, and where a small business doesn't have the resources, maybe you can build on that and help them recycle. Or if I look at my organization's small office, we recycle some of the products that are in there and not having those resources. So the understanding what materials we do have in a given area, so we can also work with our haulers to make it effective for everybody as well. And then the third thing would be byproduct synergy. So if you do have materials that you can then sell as a byproduct from the process as well. So like I said, it's free. It's anonymous for you to post. It's anonymous for you to go look around and start that relationship with another organization who has a material you may be interested in. It's exchangewestmi.com, and there's materials over here on the table.
Thanks, Lisa. And then Kathy Brubaker-Clark from the City of Muskegon, who is also the chair of our County Solid Waste Committee, wanted to say a few words.
Just really want to report out to everybody that the Solid Waste Committee with the County of Muskegon has been in existence for several years, I believe, but it's just as of last year really up and running, getting going again, and looking at where we want to go, what we want to do, and activities. We started last year visiting some recycling centers, including Kent County, and getting ideas, and then we just had a planning session about a month or so ago. We decided rather than just coming together and chatting every month, let's really figure out where we want to go, what we want to do. And so that really has helped, and we
help me give our panel a round of applause?
I'm here with Doug Wood from Kent County Department of Public Works, the director, and he had made a couple of statements during the discussion that I wanted to follow up on. One of them is dealing with the collaboration. You made a point about being regional, not local.
Well, the recycling facility that we built in 2010 and it's been operating since then, it's an investment of $10 million. But, you know, we've got a urban community. Then as you fold out, you've got rural areas. But then we're surrounded by farming communities, manufacturing communities. Everybody can't afford a processing facility. So to take that next step for everybody else so that they can participate in recycling, it makes sense to collaborate and coordinate. Say, we'll have a recycling program, we'll funnel this material to you. The theory I have is, it's not a theory, a comment I have is, if we can haul garbage 50 miles, we can haul recyclables 50 miles and get them to a plant, process them. But everybody, Muskegon may not have, you know, Newaygo County, Montcalm County, Allegan County, Ionia, they can't afford to have their own facility. But they want to recycle, so that if they collect material, funnel it into a facility and process it.
I see. So is it kind of like, I guess it's kind of like the cable companies and some of the other utility providers where it's easy to provide for an urban environment, but once you get outside of that, then it is more difficult.
Exactly.
Yeah. So is there a point where they become kind of equal, where the waste and the recycling would be at the same level, or is it just because the processing is so much different?
I think that's potential. I mean, I think there could be, as in terms of volume, as much recyclables as that material that ends up to be waste.
Right. Another point you had made was about the children. You have tours in the facility and things like that. Can you comment about the value of having children go through the facility and what you find with that?
One thing we did, we call it a recycling and education center. One of our goals is to educate the community and start with the youngsters because they listen better.
Yeah.
So we designed our facility not only to process recyclables, but we designed it so that they could tour it safely and look at the facility. We put, I think, 20, 25 cameras in the facility. We got all these flat screen TVs they can look at. And they can come in and look at the facility. So they come by school buses from not only just Kent County, but other school districts outside Kent County. And not only that, we're starting kind of some neat stuff. You know, there's summer programs. We have craft building out of recyclable materials. We'll have classes for teachers. We've got activity boxes like this, and it's full of things that teachers can pick one up and do arts and crafts with their kids. Okay. So a lot of different opportunities to kind of convey the message of recycling.
Right, and then they'll see it, they'll take that information home.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. And they tell their parents, you can't throw that out.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being part of this. I appreciate your time.
You bet.
Okay, I'm with Matt Fletcher from the DEQ, and can you explain the governor's initiative, just so we understand it a little better?
Absolutely. So the governor has come out with a plan to double our recycling rate.
Okay.
So we're going to double our recycling rate within 2 years. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to first measure our recycling rate, see where we're at.
Right.
We're going to increase access to recycling opportunities. We are going to increase markets to support end use of materials that are collected. And we're going to have a campaign to educate consumers and residents and businesses on why it's important to recycle and how to recycle, and providing them information on where to recycle.
Okay, so you're looking at just total,
right,
the big picture.
Right. Michigan has a great opportunity right now to improve our recycling rate. We are the lowest in the Great Lakes state, and we can do better. We are going to have great business opportunities to expand recycling in Michigan. And one of the first things we're going to do is we want to increase participation in recycling rates as is developed right now. So we've got programs, but they are not being utilized to their fullest extent. So we want to increase participation in those programs.
And different types of ways for participation, because I know there's some incentive-based programs.
Right, incentive-based programs.
I know I've heard that the penalty type, you go the stick or the carrot. The stick isn't really a great effective way to do it.
Right. So what you want to do is make sure that it's a convenient program, first of all, and then educate consumers about the importance of recycling, why it's good for the economy, why it's good for the environment. Recycling is seen many times as the first step to involving a choice that somebody can make individually to show an impact on their economy and the environment. So we want to make sure that residents have the understanding about why their individual actions have a positive impact on Michigan's economy and environment.
So there is a lot of marketing involved in it.
There will be
as
a lot
far
of
as
marketing.
PR
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And not to mention, it's got to be financially
Right. Absolutely.
Reasonable and everything like that, but also
Absolutely.
the marketing part of
Yes.
it. And children's education as well?
So yes, working within schools so that school children understand the importance, and also expanding access to recycling opportunities in schools is important, so that students have the opportunity to recycle their materials.
Right. Now, is composting considered part of the recycling program?
So our doubling our recycling rate will include all municipal solid waste, which includes composting like yard clippings and food waste. So we will need to expand composting opportunities, composting facilities. Getting those resources into a new product is going to be very important.
That's great, and that sounds like that's something that can be sold locally, I'm sure.
Yes.
Or bagged up and sold.
Yes, it does make a new product, a great new product.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, thanks for your participation in this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.